Good day, everyone. It's a privilege to be alive today at another setting like this. I just want to give you praise and thanks for your blessing, the blessing that God has bestowed upon all of us in this land and across the world. Wherever you are able to praise and give God thanks in all things. And this today is a very rainy day in our country, Jamaica. Those of you who are not from Jamaica, West Indies, it's very rainy on the outside. We are having an impending tropical storm, but nevertheless, we are warm on the inside. Just to come back to you again, as was promised this morning or today, I'm going to look at the caption, The Christian Entering the Court. That's the Christian entering the court. And it says here, the court and its antitype. We now enter directly upon the study of the sanctuary, and as you know, we would have been studying about the sanctuary in the past. So we now enter directly upon the study of the sanctuary, which consists of three parts. And you have the court, which is the outside, the yard when we drive up and park, that's the court. The holy place is where we sit inside the church, and the most holy place is where the ministers of the gospel and his participants will take part on the platform on a regular basis. The court is the first section of our journey along, as I mentioned earlier, the path to the throne of God. Christ leads the way, explaining by symbols in his object lesson of redemption how we, his followers, can travel the path successfully. As we enter the court, let us be true disciples, real learners in the school of Christ. In this journey, we have nothing to fear, for Christ gives us many assuring promises, and one of which is Psalm 32, verse 8. I will teach thee and guide thee with mine eye. Psalm 25, verse 9. I will guide thee in judgment. John 16:13. I will guide thee into all truth. And Luke 1, verse 7 and 9. He will guide our feet into the way of peace. And so we walk together, my Lord and I. So the court, as well as the sanctuary proper, was a type illustrating in the part the redemptive work of Christ. Uriah Smith makes it plain that this earth is the antitype of the court. He says the court is the place where the victims were slain, whose blood was to be ministered in the sanctuary. The antitypical victim must die in the antitypical court. And he, Jesus, died on Calvary in Judea. So we see what the court and its antitype it's all about. Next, we are going to look at the court gate. The entrance to the court of the sanctuary, occupied by at least 30 feet in the middle of the eastern court wall, and on each side of this entrance were 15 cubits of wall. It was 5 cubits high, the same as the wall, and was called the gate. And this was the sanctuary in the days of old. And now today, we have our church that is built as the sanctuary, and we also have the court, which is on the outside, the yard. And on the court, we have gates, and many churches have four pillars rather, 2 for exit and 2 for entrance. And so you're going to see what happens when we enter through the court gate. So it was a hanging of royal colors, blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen wrought with needlework. This needlework or embroidery was done under the direction and instruction of Aholiab, who, as we have learned, was cunning or skillful in this art. It was wrought with thread of pure gold, which made it not only brilliant, but very costly. To secure the thread, they beat the gold into thin plates and cut it into wires to work it into blue and in purple and in the scarlet and the fine linen with cunning work. And you will know as we study further that the blue has significance, the purple has significance, and the scarlet has spiritual significance. So when completed, it was a gorgeous piece of exquisite and durable tapestry reflecting the rainbow colors and, especially in the sunshine, brilliantly illuminated with the inwrought gold. And we know the significance of the rainbow. It reminds us of the promise that Jesus gave us when he said, there will be no more water, but fire next time. That's the only symbolic meaning that we should have etched in our brains and in our minds of what the rainbow is all about. So we are not told what design was worked out in this gold needlework, but since the gate, the entrance to the court, the door, the entrance to the holy place, and the veil, the entrance to the most holy place, all represent Christ in three divisions of his work for our salvation. It would seem quite probable that the design on all three was similar, cherubim in some form. This is definitely so stated of the veil and the door, which was a similar veil. Both veils were embroidered with cherubims like the inner covering that formed the ceiling, and you can find that in Exodus chapter 26, verse 31. So what are the significance of the colors, as I mentioned earlier? Let's look a little closer, that we may think God's thoughts after him. Did God require these particular colors without a purpose? Did he just say to himself, oh, I'm going to give blue, I'm going to give purple, I'm going to give scarlet? Did he repeatedly insist upon strict obedience to the pattern without a reason? Most assuredly not. The plan of salvation and the work of Christ, which the sanctuary typified, mean too much to God as well as to his children for him to talk at random or without serious meaning. So as we reflect on these thoughts, we will understand that it is a similar thing for us as God's people here on earth. Whatever it is that we do, whatever things that we take into the sanctuary, it should be of such significant meaning that it is in tandem with what the Lord requires of us, the instructions that he gave us in the book of Exodus, chapter 26 and onwards. So we must not take things lightly when we go into the sanctuary service. The colors that are there, they have real significant meaning. And I'm going to let you know now what are the symbolic meaning of these colors that were used in this sanctuary. All right, so these royal colors must have some definite spiritual meaning in the divine object lessons. What are the colors and what is it? The white, as you know, is a symbol of purity and righteousness. Yes, the white is a symbol of purity and righteousness. The scarlet represents sacrifice, and you have these evidences. First, Revelation 19, verse 8, that tells us about the white color. And then Revelation 19, verse 13 gives us the understanding of the scarlet color. So the purple now signifies royalty, and that's coming from St. John 19, verse 2. And the blue indicates obedience to the eternal truth of heaven. So we see all these significant meanings, these colors that have significant meanings that are very critical to salvation. And so it doesn't mean that it's going to save us, but God requires these things into his temple to be used, and that is why he lays out through Moses exactly what it is that should be in his temple each time he spoke with him. All right? So it says here, as shown by God's direction, that a ribbon of blue should border the uniform to be worn by the children of Israel. And you can see that in Numbers 15, verse 37 to 40. This blue ribbon, from which has come the expression true blue, was to be a reminder that God's children are to obey all his commandments. They are to be true blue. As blue mixed with scarlet produces purple. Look at this. As blue mixed with scarlet produces purple, So obedience to God's eternal truth added to sacrifice makes royalty. So you see how the colors come in? As blue mixed with scarlet produces purple. So obedience to God's eternal truth added to sacrifice makes royalty. These significant symbols apply both to Christ and his followers. Who are his followers? We are his followers. We are the disciples. And so the fine white linen represents his righteousness, the blue, the scarlet, and the purple, all royal colors, represent what? His eternal truth, his sacrifice, his kingship. So we must understand that whatever God says, he means, and he means what he says. So our sanctuary, which at this point is the building we are referring to, must be done and must be built according to the instructions that he has given us through Moses. While Moses spoke with him, then it is passed down to us through the written word for us to follow that instruction. So we must not deviate from building the sanctuary and putting things in there that the Lord requires of us to place in there. So we're going to look now at the 4 pillars, and just picture in your mind's eye when you are going through your church gate. You have 2 pillars, 2 for entrance and 2 for exit. So that would make it 4 pillars. 4 pillars. So the gate of the sanctuary court was hung on 4 pillars. Exodus chapter 27, verse 16. Only 4, no more, no less, with the command, see that thou make it after the pattern, lest thou mar God's great plan. You see that? So everything that has to do with the sanctuary has its own significance. So why 4? You could ask yourself, why did he say 4? Why didn't he say 2? Why didn't he say 6? Why didn't he say 8? So let's see why the Lord says 4. So he says, for the same reason that the veil, which represented his flesh, that's Hebrews 10 verse 20, and you can find that whatever you are doubtful of, go back to the text that I have quoted, and you will see the evidence right there. So Hebrews 10 verse 20 was hung on what? 4 pillars. And for the same reason that when he turns on earth, inspiration gave us his life in what? 4 gospels. So you see why the 4? The 4 columns: Matthew 1, Mark 2, Luke 3, John 4. So the 4 columns, or the 4 pillars, represents the 4 gospels. And the 4 gospels are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So as 7 in the Bible indicates completeness and perfection, so the number 4 in the sanctuary, dictated by God, must have some divine significance. This number occurs in the 4 coverings, the 4 ingredients of the showbread, the incense, the anointing oil, also in the 4th commandment, and in other places where it always points to Christ. So as the number 4 points to Christ, so the multiples of 4, which is 12, 12 2 is 24, 24 and 4 plus 4 equals 48, 60, 12,000, 144. Multiples of 4 are used to indicate special groups of his true followers. Continuing our study, we shall notice that this number 4 recurs frequently, and to the spiritual minded, the promise is the Spirit of truth will guide you in all truth. And this was one of the promise texts that I told you earlier. I will guide thee in all truth. And as I told you in my previous vlogs or video, I am coming from the book, The Path to the Throne of God. This is the book that I will do my studies from, The Path to the Throne of God. So always you will find me coming from this book. I don't take credit for myself, but this writer here, The Path to the Throne of God, is a Very, very good writer by Sarah Peck. Very good writer. So, as you reflect, as you continue to study from the book of Exodus, the Christian entering the court, we have much more to say. We have the gate, which is the position of authority. We have Christ, our gate of refuge, and Christ, the way. And he says, come unto me. And guess what? The most important part of it, our behavior within the gate. So until then, at another time, at another session, I will come back to you and follow up on the gate, a position of authority. So I would implore of you to watch this video so that you can learn more interesting facts of what the sanctuary is all about. So tell your friend, share, and watch this video. Until then, I'm out.